Hello, friends. This is Kenlin. Welcome to my channel for the Astro and Energy Report for the week of February 2nd through the 9th. We can take a nice exhale. Still, so much is happening, very big geometry in the cosmos, and we made it through January. January was a true and total ass kicker. So if you have survived, I want you to take it that you are meant to be here, meaning in 3D. It's not a value contest. It's a mission. It's something that you are here to do, to be here, to hold some kind of frequency if you are here, especially if you are listening to this. So in this transmission, I'm going to talk a little bit about how to understand the politics that are happening right now, as well as some of the opportunities in this new normal, like this cycle change. We know we've been in a cycle change. So on so many levels, we've had a crossing, right? From the year of the dragon to the year of the Yin snake, the wood snake. So more feminine energy, more ease, more flow, but also skin shedding is coming through. We have a stellium, meaning more than a couple planets and celestial bodies in Pisces. So wherever Pisces is in your chart, you need to know it because the action is there. It's going to move into Aries. Venus moves into Aries. Venus comes back. Neptune moves into Aries. Saturn will eventually move into Aries, retrograde back, and then move into Aries. So we're in this transition point. So if you have no idea what I'm talking about, you don't need to. Just listen to the context and see if it bears witness with your own soul. Because the thing we get to do here is create powerful contexts for our going forward. And that's what I use astrology for. This planet is highly influenced. We on this planet, the beings on this planet are highly influenced by the cosmos. That's not apparently like it is on other planets, but that's how it is here. And how beautiful. We have a map. And the map is also contained inside. So January was an ass kicker. It was a super shit show. So many people died. So many people suffered devastating losses. It's where a new government came into the United States, a pissing match with other countries, firings, total chaos and upheaval. That was the January signature. I'm not saying that's going to change, but we all knew as those looking at the stars that January was going to be a very, very rough month. Now we have February, March, and April. This is what Molly McCord calls pivotal astrology, pivotal time. So we're declaring that by the end of April, we're going to start moving into a flow state. And these are the transition months for that flow state. So you may have experienced January blowing some major stuff up in your life, things that you didn't maybe even expect, or it was a part of a conversation and it took form in a particular way, maybe even by the end of the month, because Uranus stationed direct on the 30th of January. And Uranus is the great awakener. It is the Lord of upheaval, right? The higher octave of the mind. It rules. It's a modern ruler of Aquarius. So we have Pluto and Uranus creating so much havoc. And let's contextualize, why is that? There may be some parts of us or some of us who say, I just wish it weren't that way. But if you really tune in, and chances are you are, because there's a lot of spiritual energy right now. So chances are what's happened is you've actually used this upheaval for your spiritual growth. Chances are you've done that. And if you haven't, get on it because that's your only saving grace. You cannot control anything out there. You cannot control another person. You can only control the things you have control over, including, and most importantly, where you put your attention and what your attitude is. What is the story you're telling yourself? So January presented a lot of shadow material, your shadow material. I just want to get clear. Let's not blame it on other people, yours. So if you took the opportunity, and I hope you did, and if you didn't, tuck it into your mind as something that you get to do, of really excavating that shadow. And what I mean by that is assessing the truth of it. So when we are doing shadow work, we're not doing monkey mind work. We're not doing inner critic work. That's not it. So if you are critical of yourself and beating yourself up in your head, you are not doing shadow work. You are doing your pattern. You're doing conditioning. You're probably taking on a voice of one of your parents inside of you. That is in the matrix. So you have to cut that off. You have to use your discipline to cut that off and say, I will not feed that voice. And then look at things. Shadow work is looking at things from a neutral place and assessing the dark side, the place where you did do something wrong, the place where you showed up out of integrity, the place where you may have blown something up. And it's not to say you're bad. That's again part of the matrix. It's to allow a deeper meaning to come through. It's to allow you to get neutral, because when you're triggered on the inside because you think you're such a bad person, or you're projecting onto someone else that they are the bad person, this is how this whole world got where it is, right? And we are here to undo that. The Buddhists say we're at the fourth turning. And this means this is our fourth opportunity as humanity. We've come to this threshold before and we've blown it. But we're not going to blow it this time because our consciousness is too wide open. The aperture is too wide open, allowing much more light energy than ever, ever, ever before. So with all that light energy, we can shine the light on the shadow material, the places in the dark where we hold resentment, where we hate someone, where we hate ourselves. Because if you hate someone, you hate yourself. And we can literally just see it. There's nothing to do with it. You cannot heal it. The only thing that gets to happen is you witness it. And you may have tears that come up. You may have to beat a pillow until the tears come up. And then you notice that a lightness comes through. And you know what happens? Here's the beauty of what this constellation in Pisces represents. It represents compassion. So you get to bring in more compassion for yourself and for the others. Because if you think there is another, then you're sadly mistaken. There is only you. There is only one thing. So forgiving someone over there is forgiving someone in here. And you'll know the difference. This is the maturity on the spiritual path. You'll know the difference when you're playing martyr, or you're playing people pleaser, or you're playing doormat, or you're playing bully, or you're playing rigid. You'll know the difference when you're not playing that. It's not about the outer actions. It's that inner come from place. And we'll talk more about that as we move on to this transmission. So it's big, big stuff. So today, as I release it, well, I'm filming this the day before I release it. So when I release this, we've got Venus moving into Aries. And then Venus is going to retrograde back into Pisces. So if you think about this action that's happening at the late degrees of Pisces, we've got Neptune, we have the North Node, because remember the North Node retrogrades. So as we experience more and more of the North Node in Pisces, it will go lesser and lesser degrees. So right now we have the North Node conjunct Venus in Pisces. So that's a very, like the heart, like our materiality, our wealth, our love, our abundance, and the North Node are having a conversation in Pisces. Pisces oneness, mysticism, the divine. It could also be checking out. But if you're listening, you're not doing that. So it's a very beautiful spiritual transit, but we also have Neptune there. And really Neptune, because it's an outer planet, is the ruler of this conversation. So more compassion is what's actually happening. This Venus is very important. That's happening right now. I'm not going to include everything about that Venus, but just suffice it to say that Venus is going into Aries and she will retrograde back. So some of you are born with a natal Venus in Aries, and this is your Venus return. and Pisces. Anything, especially in the late degrees of Pisces, we're talking about a theme of letting go. Once and for all. It's done. It's complete. That may be sobering, and you may have a lot of tears to shed, or you've already shed them about what is being let go of. Something is being sacrificed here. And the word sacrifice means to make sacred. So if you think about, we tend in our normal conversation in the 3D lower octaves to think about sacrifice as a martyr or someone of valor, like say someone in the army sacrificing for their country. That's not this. This kind of sacrifice is giving over to the divine that which you had clung to as a form of your identity or a hope or a vision or a dream, and surrendering it when it's being asked to be surrendered. And you know when something is being asked to be surrendered. So that very act makes it sacred. Yeah. I was watching a movie this weekend. It was called Me Before You. It's a romantic comedy, but at the end, I was bawling. This is a 2015 film. I didn't know the actors, but the beauty of this film was that at the end, they didn't make everything all perfect. There was a sacrifice at the end. And I just bawled my eyes out because that is the theme that's being asked of us right now. So late degrees Pisces is asking you to make a sacrifice. And you already know what it is. It could be a relationship. It could be where you live. It could be who you thought yourself to be, that you realize through that inner shadow work that you're not that, and that you give it up. Now, it may find you again with a new come from place, because this energy wants to wring out any shadow, any scarcity, fear, negativity, all the things that really got humanity to continue on the wheel of samsara instead of waking up. So this week is so important. We had Uranus stationing direct. So now Uranus is direct. And guess what? We have Jupiter stationing direct on the 4th of February. Thank the goddess. So Jupiter brought us back to the places where Gemini is in our chart, ruled by Mercury. And that's good because Mercury has a trine with Pluto right now. So there's big power in this Jupiter energy right now, stationing direct to bring you the blessings of that which you went through. So over, let's see, October through today, something you deeply reckoned with. And it's probably leaving. Some version of it is leaving. That was the wrecking ball. And now the blessings get to flow in. So when I talk about February, March, and April being pivotal months, they are basically the setup, the change that will create the flow happening later. So we're going to be flowing in a whole new way as new people, new identities. It's a little bit like, my friends have talked about this, who just lost their dog, and the anticipation of losing their dog was, first of all, way worse than actually losing their dog. And then it was, when you lose your dog and that dog crosses over, it's actually very, very beautiful. And then after that, there's a grieving, and then there's a lightness that comes through, because there's such a heaviness, particularly in that anticipation of loss. So once your psyche wraps its head around the fact that it's lost, it's gone, it's sacrificed, there's actually a clearing that happens. And that's what we're talking about is coming. This clearing is then going to produce a new opportunity to go in a different direction. And there's a lot of unexpected, because we have Uranus playing a very central role. We have Pluto that's bringing things up. So we don't even know maybe where that is, but chances are you have a deeper comfort level with the unknown than you've ever had before. All right. So this stellium in Pisces is saying you have moved on. You have moved on. It could be a relationship. It could be a job. It could be a situation with your boss. It could be with your neighbors. I mean, it could be a million different things. But when you really see it, you realize it's now time for you to move on. Oh, let's take a deep breath in that one. All right. I'm going to continue on and see if there's anything I didn't cover. So part of this shadow work that I mentioned that we have been doing, and you'll probably have many opportunities to continue doing this, and I just want to make sure that you can throw all this into the mix. But it's really, the shadow work is belief systems, because Jupiter retrograde had you look at your belief systems. What did you think was true about life? And now what do you know? Not think. What do you know from your direct observation as the God self? Memories, patterns, like even soul patterns, which could be imprints of this way of being that is your response to handling overwhelm. So you might be a person who leaves your body when it gets overwhelmed, or you could be a person who merges with others when you're overwhelmed. Take care of them because then it'll take care of me. Or a person who suffers through a lot of bullshit because your energy just goes down into the ground and you almost like don't move, but you resent the hell out of it. Or you could be angry and just like a lit firecracker. Or you could be like, no, I'm gonna start my gym regimen right now. That's me. Whenever I get stressed, I try to find something that I can control. And then I like, oh yeah, this is a good time to fast. This is a good time to change my diet, because it's like part of that. Like, no, I'm gonna save it by, or save myself the experience of chaos by doing something I can control. And that's not all bad, but that's a pattern. So all of these things are patterns. Those will come to you, beliefs. And what gets to happen when you meet those things is you actually get initiated. You actually go up a level. You're a different person. And you can now assess your growth, and you can see how you have changed. And you know you've changed when you got more neutral, when you're less triggered about things and you're more neutral, when you're more with your feelings and you're more asking questions and you're more curious. And it does happen. And it's not to say it has to happen, but when you keep working it, it does happen. So give yourself a lot of compassion right now, and know that if something leaves you, then you have outgrown it. On a soul level, the contract has expired. There's nothing you can do about it. The contract has expired. So what I want to presence are like at least 4 things in this transmission. And I think I've touched on them, but I'm going to put them in a category so that you can understand clearly what we're up against. One is big endings, big ass, unexpected change, allowing yourself to move on. So just, you could write that down. What is ending so that I can begin with a new starting point? Number 2, there could be a lot of sadness and grief. And that's something to express, just like the shadow material. Really, really allow yourself to have it, allow yourself to cry. I'm so glad I watched that movie that I mentioned, because I got to sob and not even really wonder why I'm sobbing. I asked myself the question, and it was just the beauty of that sacrifice, because beauty to me, it makes me sob. So that was a release mechanism. And then the next day, well, actually, when I went to sleep, I could feel that I was just super held in the divine. So that's what's happening. And then the third thing is compassion and spiritual upgrades. So the more that you give yourself compassion, you're going to experience the spiritual upgrades. One of the things that's coming through for me is my intuition. Before, I had knowings, but I didn't quite follow them as rigorously. I do not second guess them. If it says turn around and grab your keys before you go, I turn around and grab my keys. Before, it used to be like a dialogue. No, you don't really need your keys. I'll be right back. And I'm just like, I don't play that game anymore. If it says turn around and grab your keys, I turn around and grab my keys. And maybe nothing happens and I never needed my keys. I don't even care. I'm just listening. That's the discipline. So you're elevating in your own spiritual gifts. And what we know about this quantum information, this 5D information, this information that is a gnosis, because it would fry your brain if it actually came through your thinking mind. But that level of how the nature of reality, how the world works, that kind of information, you got to ask for it. And so when you clear enough away and you're not attached and spending your life trying to hold on, then this spiritual bounty is coming in. That's part of this Neptune, Venus, North Node conjunction, or stellium. And then, as I said, February, March, April, this is pivotal astrology. This is the change before the flow. So give yourself a lot of self-care as we continue to navigate the new normal. And I don't think it's going to be as gnarly as January was. And I'm going to talk in a minute about politics. Let me see if there's anything else. I think we could also say that the divine feminine, I like to always presence the divine feminine in these conversations, because it's so important to know that she's here. She works differently. So if you have eyes only for this 3D and you get your information from the news, you probably will miss her. But she's in the nooks and the crannies. She's in the places that are not seen, and she's holding us. And that's really being picked up through that Venus North Node and Pisces, Neptune experience, and that Quan Yin compassion coming through. You know, Quan Yin's compassion. Just really ask to get a taste of that. It's in your heart of hearts, when you're alone, when you're quiet, after you've been meditating for a while, maybe after you've done yoga and the body is quiet, the mind is quiet. Ask for an experience of compassion. Call upon Kuan Yin. It will bring you to your knees. It will bring you to your knees. And that kind of compassion doesn't lend you to being a doormat. You can still walk forcefully forward, and also your heart is open. That's the beauty of where possibilities come from. So let's just remember that we're doing this. Part of that fourth turning of the wheel is love. You know, I talked to my sister yesterday, and we were always on different pages spiritually. When I came home in 2001 from India, I declared it's all love. It's just all love. I took no psychedelics in India. It was just pure being there. And, you know, everybody was like, huh, okay. You know how it is weird if you haven't experienced it to hear someone say that. My sister's like, it's all love. I'm like, I know. So that's where we're going. And we get to infuse that and flood that in our being. You're ready for it. You're ready to know the truth of it. You're ready to do your work from it's all love. Do you get what I'm saying? We're ready for it. Let's stop fucking around with all the other stuff and literally just stand in the place of love. We may have to go through the gauntlet to get there, having lost your house through fire or something. You might have to go through the gauntlet. That's part of that Jupiter retrograde. People are like, no, Jupiter gives me what I want. No, Jupiter never gives you what you want. Jupiter, all the planets, they're giving you what you need. They're in a soul agreement with your blueprint to give you what you need in this lifetime for your soul's evolution, for you to wake up to what? That there's only love. So let's see. I presence the divine feminine. Now let's talk a minute about politics. So there's a lot happening very quickly in the political world in the United States. I'm just going to speak to what I'm experiencing, witnessing. I'm not even experiencing, it's just my witness here. And one thing occurs to me to say about that, and that is that the last 18 months, we were trained with the North Node in Aries. Remember, we now have the North Node in Pisces. So North Node is our future destiny, our collective future destiny. So we were trained through whatever school of life we had to go through in the Aries Libra axes of our chart, which is all about individuality, Aries, boldness, I am, sovereignty. And on the other axes, Libra, getting along with others, the scales of justice, that was in the South Node position. So we actually were in the learning, not of getting along, but of self-actualization, self-expression, boldness, confidence. And I think there's no accident that what could be emerging in this political landscape is the power to the people. We're going to have to learn how to get along. But if I look at things in patterns, I see, okay, as individuals, we had to get our power back. Without getting our power back and claiming our voice and claiming our no and standing in our truth, we got nothing. And so there are already in the world scene, in the US scene, we're already seeing people standing up and saying no. I think that is what we've been trained to do. Now what we get to do as Pisces in the North Node is we get to take on compassion. We get to take on the love. We get to take on a higher octave. And that's going to midwife something that when we then in 18 months go into the North Node in Aquarius, guess what? We're going to know how to build community. We're going to know how to be with each other. That's what that's going to do. So we're being trained. Consider that. And it's like anything in our lives. Consider that everything that happens is training ground. It's medicine. I say often, I'm just going to take my medicine. It's medicine. It's training ground for your warriorship, but not just any old warrior, for your love warrior. See if you can hold that in your hand alongside of everything else that you're witnessing and holding in your life. So I'm going to end here. Let's rub our hands together, gathering all the positive energy we have generated and beam it out, surrounding the whole earth, even in our Milky Way. May all beings benefit from the merits of our efforts.